I've been thinking for a while about why everything sucks in this country, and there are a lot of very obvious answers. For instance, young people cannot afford a house right now because housing prices are really high. And at the same time, the job market is not hiring people. Like, there, new jobs aren't being created. If anything, a lot of jobs are being phased out because of AI and stuff like that. Like, they are doing layoffs in order to, I guess, make it look good on paper, like they're not losing money. Like, I'm talking about big companies. A lot of the times, well, I'll get into this further down. I'm just gonna get to my point. The point is, young people right now are really screwed, and no one can really point to like how this like you can blame the government, but it's actually a lot deeper than that. And I did quite a bit of research and looked in places where it's so obvious now, but let me just I guess go on what I'm trying to say. So the reason everything sucks right now is for the reasons I listed before, but it really comes down to I started watching this channel, and a lot of people don't like this guy. I understand he's very like conspiracy minded, and not everyone's down for like weird conspiracy stuff, especially from someone claiming to be a professor. But I'm talking about Professor Zhang. Specifically, he had this one video about how America, or just the world in general, or maybe he was just talking about the West. We live in like a gerontocracy. And what that means is that we live in a country that's run by old people for old people. And how did this happen? Well, old people are the ones who vote in elections, and they always vote for their own interests, which you should. If you're voting, you should always vote for like your best interests. A lot of people vote like, what is the other party doing? You know, like who is the best position to fight against the other party's politician? And you really shouldn't vote like that, because then you get all these like weird career politicians. But anyway, old people vote for who is going to give them the most benefits. And what are those benefits? It's things like housing prices. So recently Trump said that he is going to keep housing prices high. And he has like zero concern about making houses more affordable. He basically just said, fuck young people. Like, I don't want old people to lose valuations on their houses. And the reason for that is because that is the major voting bloc of both parties. It's old people. That's why a lot of politicians, like, the housing crisis is not a big concern for them, because for the most part, boomers and up they already own a house. They've owned a house for a long time. Because they've owned that house for a long time, it's gained value. And so if they were to bring housing prices down, and the way you can do this a few ways. One of the ways is you let builders build more housing around, you know, like where people already live, you know. But there are a lot of impediments to that, and one of those impediments is NIMBYs. And what NIMBYs are NIMBYs stands. It's an acronym. It stands for Not in My Backyard. And that means that there are a lot of people who are against. Let me give you an example, because I live in a neighborhood that has kind of been I wouldn't say isolated, but like it's the only neighborhood on the block. It's the only neighborhood. For a long time, it was the only neighborhood like around for like half a mile. You know, like everything else was like open fields. There was like an elementary school next to my neighborhood, and there were some neighborhoods like further down, and further down is the city. So I live on like the outskirts. And so recently there has been an explosion of population and people moving down here. I'm not even talking about immigrants. I'm talking about like people from in other places of the country. They're moving to where I live because it just happens to be a very well, I mean, like they build SpaceX here. I live like in South Texas, and like a lot of people are moving here, and so for most of my life, my neighborhood has been isolated. But recently, because of all the people moving here, there is so much development around where I live. So much apartment complexes being built. An unfathomable amount of housing is being built where I live. And at first, before I learned about what I'm going to talk to you about, I was very against, like, why the fuck are they building like all these apartments here? Like, get them out of here. Like, it's clogging up the road. This road that I live on to go to the city used to be very, it's a 2-lane road. There's not a lot of capacity for a large amount of traffic, but there used to not be a need because there was barely anybody living on this road. But now there are tons of apartment complexes, and they keep building them more. I can walk outside and I can see like 3 or 4 apartment complexes being built. So this little 2-lane road is getting clogged up. There's like been, I wouldn't say a surge, but there's been a noticeable, I wouldn't even say amount of gang violence. It's more like now there's people tagging like buildings and solid walls, like fence. People are like tagging those like gangs, local gangs, and like that. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to know that there's like gangs being I guess considering this area their turf. So this mentality of like, I hate this situation, which is very reasonable, is called Nimbyism. It's not in my backyard. Like, quit fucking building all this shit in my backyard and ruining my peace, my open roads. Quit doing that shit. So a lot of people are against this, and then they go to like City Hall and they protest, and they convince the local government, like, please stop zoning, making like zoning properties or real estate in this area where I live, because we hate it. And that's very bad on the grand scale of things, because when you don't let people build housing, that is what keeps housing prices insane. And a lot of you are going to say, well, there's also this Wall Street keeps buying houses, like they keep buying single family homes. And funnily enough, I used to believe this, until very recently, I used to believe this, but I found out that is actually not true. Because my best friend's uncle came down, and he is like Republican. I'm not Republican. I'm independent, left leaning. And so he was just telling me like, oh yeah, like you guys need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and I don't know what. But I was telling him about like how our generation is like extra screwed. And he was like, well, you still got to find a way. And he was just telling me, like, I was telling him about how there's a company called BlackRock buying up all these single family homes. And he was like, no, that's not true. That's actually like a leftist conspiracy theory. And I was just like, okay, whatever. Like, this fucking Republican ass dude doesn't want to believe this because I don't know. So I did my own research, and it turned out he was right. The company BlackRock that everyone keeps mentioning is not actually like, BlackRock is something else. They mean Blackstone, because Blackstone's a real estate oriented company. And the thing is, yeah, Blackstone does buy a lot of property, but they typically buy apartment complexes, and they buy like a small amount of single family homes, if I'm remembering my research right. But the thing is, they don't buy nearly enough to explain why housing prices are so fucked up. Like all of Wall Street, the real estate investment section cannot buy up enough property to explain. Like, yeah, they are buying, but it just doesn't account for what's going on. And so I looked further into it, and basically the way boomers were able to get such a great price, like you could work at a grocery store and you could afford a house and you could raise a family and your wife wouldn't have to work and you were just like working the register at like Walmart. Okay. So how that happened is right after World War II, the American economy was booming because everyone else in Europe was blown to smithereens, and they had to borrow all this money from America, and then the American dollar became like the standard currency to do trade anywhere. And because of that, people kept borrowing American money, and we kept printing it, but its value increased so greatly. It increased so greatly that everyone benefited from this. And everyone suddenly had a lot of spending power on their dollar. And so what happened was all these soldiers came back from war. Like basically like all the men who were eligible to go to war basically went. Like that's why World War II soldiers are so, or they were so common, not so much anymore. I mean, it's been a long time. When I was little, they were very common, but I mean, now they're like in their 80s and 90s, so they're not as common. But these soldiers came back and they were like, okay, we're back. We want to start a family. You know, we're soldiers. We got a lot of benefits. The economy's booming. Everything's great. So what the government did is that they incentivized building houses. They created the idea of suburbia, because before then it didn't really exist. Everyone was either rural or urban, but after World War II there was the suburbs. Okay, now you have like a bunch of identical houses, neighborhoods, like stretched further than the eye can see, and the houses were very, very affordable. Okay, so that's how the boomers were able to get the housing that they wanted, and this went on for decades. Like we benefited for a very, very, very long time on World War II. So it wasn't until recently that I would say, in my research, it kind of said during the 2008 financial housing crisis, that is when, because before that, builders, all these construction companies and real estate companies, they worked hand in hand to keep this idea of suburbia going. So they would just build neighborhoods. They would build neighborhoods and then they would sell the houses, right? So they it's not like they would find people who wanted to buy a house and then build the house. It was like, no, that if we build it, someone will buy this. So they would build whole neighborhoods. Well, Wall Street fucked up that whole idea because they started giving out loans to people who did not qualify for these loans, and they couldn't pay off their loans. And so they, instead of foreclosing on them instantly, they took their debt of these people who can pay off their loans and they sold it to other companies. And then those companies sold it to other companies, and then they would package it up in like debt bundles and sell it to other companies. And it kind of became a big circle of like selling debt that was faulty. It was like not good debt. Because usually you would sell debt to like another company and they would take care of it. Like it was debt that was good because it would be paid off. You just needed money like sooner. So you would sell this debt. But the debt in the housing crisis was terrible. Like it was never going to get paid back. And then all these companies were playing hot potato with these large bundles of debt, terrible debt. And everything just crashed. at one point, everyone just realized like, hey, we're not gonna get this money back, and it just all like the bubble burst. And then so now builders are terrified of building. NIMBYs are stopping housing from being built. But not only that, it's also the price of lumber, the price of building materials has gone up. And you could blame that on the tariffs, but it's also just like market forces, and all these things come together to create a really bad housing economy. So that's one of the things that sucks. Like, you could blame Nimbyism on gerontocracy as well. But getting back to the gerontocracy thing, like, we old people do not want this problem to be solved, because then if we start building more housing and letting that happen, let's say we solve all these issues that are external and we start building housing, old people are not going to like that, because the value of their property is going to go down. And so they vote for their own interests, which, you know, everyone should do that, I guess. But it is shitty to do. And so, yeah, like we and that this also, a lot of people like to blame the housing crisis and the job market on immigrants. And I can see why. Because I myself have had videos dealing on this subject. So the idea is that you bring in immigrants and they steal jobs. How do they do that? Well, I'm going to give you an example. I have a friend who works on construction sites, right? And, well, we live in South Texas. That's right on the border. So he cannot work here. He literally cannot work here because he gets priced out of the job market. Why? Because there are so many illegal immigrants here who are willing to work for like pennies on the dollar and for the same job. So my friend, who actually is a citizen, actually has, you know, like good qualifications, he has to travel upstate where he can actually find a decent paying job. So that's one way they steal, quote unquote, they steal your job. It's not really stealing. Like, it's like, you shouldn't blame the immigrant for stealing. You should blame the company for employing these illegal immigrants, like, and exploiting them, because that's what it is. It really is exploitation, because they cannot you know, ask for more money. They literally cannot. They, like, if they do, like, they're like, hey, you're going back to Mexico. We're gonna call the immigration on you. So that's one way they're stealing jobs. Another way that I've seen is the whole H-1B visa thing in Silicon Valley is that there's now people who have actual like college degrees and like in tech, but the tech companies are like, hey, we like what people are doing in you know, agriculture. We want to hire like immigrants to do the work of Americans because they're cheaper. They get the job done cheaper, and we don't have to pay them as much as an American. And so, yeah, like the same thing happens in tech. It's happening right now that we're having all these Indians like come in. Like, I shouldn't just say Indians, like it's Southeast Asian, but like the majority are Indians, because that's just like how big the country is, you know. Like, I'm sure we have like a lot of Chinese people coming in too, but the point of what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, you could blame the job market on immigrants, but it should be blamed on companies. And it's not just that. It's not just like immigrants. It's also there's a phenomenon. This is also from Professor Zhang that I have verified myself. I'm not just like watching this guy and just believing whatever he says, because there are a lot of things that I don't agree with him on. But he brought up the idea of elite overproduction, and what elite overproduction is. This also has to do with the job market. This is like job market. This is the thing. This is the fucking bullseye. So elite overproduction is you have let's go back a little bit. Back in the 80s, back in even the 90s. When I was little, I was not I was little in the 90s. I grew up during the 2000s because this was still going on in the 2000s. But let's go back to like the 80s. Let's go back a little further. Remember how I was talking to you about how the economy was so good that you could work at Walmart and support a family and buy property? Well, after a while, it wasn't as good. It was still good, but it was a lot better than now. It was a lot better than a few years ago, but it was not as good as it was in the 50s. So let's say around the 70s or 80s. Things started getting less good, like not terrible. I mean, I'm sure back then they felt like it was terrible, but so around the 70s or 80s, you couldn't really do that anymore. I mean, maybe you could, but for the most part, people started going to college because technology was on the rise, like just all kinds of technology on the rise. There was a new demand for specialized workers. So colleges started becoming very, very big. I mean, college has always been around, but it became more worth it to go to college because before you could just skate on by. You could get what we now consider a shitty job. You could get that job. You could have a house. You could raise a family, and it's fine. Like unless you want more money, then you would go to college. Or if you were prestigious, like you came from a prestigious family, and then you would go to college. All right. Yeah. Like you guys are already rich. Let's go to college. And college wasn't even that expensive back then. You could probably get your degree for your entire degree, not just like 1 year of tuition. I'm talking like your entire degree. You could probably get it for like $2,000 to $5,000. Maybe that's even too much. Like I'm saying, but so people started realizing that, hey, if I have a college degree, I'm making significantly a lot more money, and I only have to go to college for like 4 years, maybe even 2 for like a certification. And I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. So what started happening is that in school, they started telling younger kids, this started like in the 70s, 80s, 90s. They started telling young kids, hey, make sure you go to college. Like, hey, you really want to go because, yeah, you could have like a normal job, something very basic, and you could, but like you want to go to college because you want to make good money. And so this kind of became like just common knowledge, like, hey, we're all going to college. Maybe like stupid people were like, I'll never go. And they were fine with like whatever. I mean, you still have that. So for like a good 3 decades, we were, I don't want to say brainwashed because brainwashed has a negative connotation. I'll just say we were conditioned to believe that if you're somewhat smart, if you're somewhat capable, if you want something better for your life, you have to go to college. So like that worked for a while. People did go to college. People did make more money. But I would say starting in the late 2000s, that became less true. And this is what elite overproduction is. Because everyone kind of says, college degrees don't mean anything anymore. And it's like, why is that? Why is that? Well, everyone has one. Everyone has a fucking college degree because we were all told, go get a college degree. We were all promised you would have a better life if you got a college degree. But that can only be that can only happen for so long. It's kind of like, let's say the California gold rush. People would go there. The people who got there first were like, holy shit, there's so much gold here. And then they would spread the word and they would be like, hey, go to the fucking mountains in California and get gold, dude. Like, go. So by the time everyone gets there, like the whole country is there in the California mountains digging for gold, and they can only find crumbs. They can only find little pebbles, dust. They're like, hey, what the fuck? I thought I was gonna have like gold bars. I thought I was gonna have a fucking ingot of gold here. I thought it was gonna strike it rich. Well, it was true at one time. And it's the same with college. It was true at one time that it was worth it. But now it's not. It's really not. And elite overproduction, that's what it is. But it's not. It doesn't just cover degrees. Why is it called elite overproduction? Well, there's the elite class of people. And those people have an interest in keeping their legacy going. Right? We have a honorable family name. We want to keep that going. I'm going to have like 5 kids. And they do. They have 5 children and they say, okay, kids, you are all going to college. I'm going to pay for everything. This family's rich. You're going to the best college. You're going to have a good job. Okay, but if every rich family does that, they're going to run out of they're gonna run out of places to put all these rich kids. They're gonna run out of all these positions. So for instance, what Professor Zhang was saying, that when he went to college, he went to Yale, and he said there were very little departments, but you could it wasn't necessary to have so many departments. He said that there were also not as many students. And he's comparing it to today. He's saying today there are so many like departments at the college that a lot of them seem very either redundant or unnecessary. Like, he was also saying that there's so many students too. Like, everyone's getting a degree now. People are getting like bullshit degrees too. And so this is bureaucracy. What bureaucracy is that you start adding positions in your organization, whether it be a institution or a company. You start adding these positions because, like, hey, my best friend has a son and I own a company, so I'm going to make up a position to put his son in so he has a good job. My company's doing well, so I can come up with a bullshit job for this guy, but you can only do that so much. You can only do that so much within every company in the world, and it's not just the ultra elites that do this. It's like even the small elites, they would call this the petite bourgeoisie in France. These are people who just own, like, maybe they own a little bit of real estate. Maybe they own like a local store, and they're like a millionaire, but they're not like super rich. They're just better off than the average person, like a lot better off, but not as good as like a real elite. So they do that too. And so like this keeps happening over decades. They keep coming up with bullshit jobs, all these companies, and we're out of space all of a sudden. There's average people getting degrees that can't find a job. And then there's now people who have connections who usually would be put above the average person for a job. And they don't have space either. So what is the solution to this? What is the solution? I would say, I personally believe that this is very similar to like a wildfire. And so what happens in California is that they never allow wildfires to occur, even though wildfires are a natural phenomenon, because every so often a forest needs to be burnt. It needs to be cleansed. It needs to be just all the dead debris and just like dead decaying matter needs to be burnt off, but California is like, no, we're not going to have that happen. We're actually going to put out any little fire that happens, and we are going to not allow wildfires to occur. So what happens? All this dry fucking matter and decayed the tree logs and twigs and dry grass gets just built up and built up till eventually one day, one hot dry ass day, there is a thunderstorm without much water. The electricity comes down, it strikes something, or some idiot in who's camping starts a fire and it spreads, and now you have a wildfire that is enormous. It's beyond it's beyond what a natural wildfire would be. It's apocalyptic. It's insane. And you saw that. I don't know if it was last year or if it was the year before, where all of like Beverly Hills was on fire. All of I don't know if it was Beverly Hills. It was just that area of Hollywood where a lot of rich people live. I forgot what it's called. I don't give a shit, honestly. Sorry, rich people. But yeah, this wildfire rips through all the rich people's homes who said, we don't want this wildfire to happen. Well, it happens either way. It's a natural occurrence. You cannot stop it. It's a force of nature. It's like physics. It's like gravity. What goes up must come down. And it's the same with the economy. It's the same with the job market. You can prop up the job market. You can prop up the economy for a very long time. We've been doing that since the 80s. We've been doing that since Reagan. This is called kicking the can down the road. Because what happens is no president wants the economy to fail under their administration because they don't want to be remembered as the president who let the economy fail. And much like the wildfire, they do not let it fall. They'll do anything. They'll print money. They'll lower the interest rates. They'll just do insane things. They'll lie. Right now, Trump is lying. The economy is in the gutter, but he has made it to where on paper it looks good. On Wall Street it looks good, but for the average person it's terrible. And this is also what's going on with elite overproduction. There are just so many jobs that need to be not existent anymore. There are so many people who are not working properly, and not working properly. I would say they just have a position where it's unnecessary and they are not doing much for the company. They're like a party planner, or they're I don't know, they're like some kind of consultant on bullshit. So what is the wildfire that will in this in this analogy, what is the wildfire? In my opinion, it is a market crash. It is a giant fucking market crash that we are overdue for, that might happen during the Trump administration because there's nothing they can do. They're doing all they can to stop it. They're ruining our economy to stop it, but it really seems like it's going to happen soon. And some would argue it's already happening, but it's more like if there's a tsunami, this is like when the water gets really low and you can see the bottom of the beach and the tsunami is coming. So I would say I don't want it to happen. I want to say that I do not want a market crash to happen, but I'm saying that it's inevitable. I'm saying it's the wildfire that has been prevented for so long that a tiny little spark just ignites all of California. And that's not the only thing that can happen. I mean, you could start doing regulations. You could start slowly walking back all this stuff. But America doesn't do that. America is a country that we make the good time. We let the good times roll. We keep the good times going as long as possible. And we keep it going on so long that we can't milk any juice out of it anymore. We are running on fumes. We are we're squeezing the last drop of orange juice out of a husk of an orange, and that's just how we do it. Because and this is something Professor Jang did not talk about, but I have always had this problem. This is something like, I know this has been going on for like 40 minutes now, and I'm barely getting to like what I really think is the root of the problem, because the wildfire thing was a solution. Okay, the market crash is a solution, one of many, but probably the most likely. But the root of the problem, in my opinion, is companies in America are incentivized to always make profits. Why? Because we have this thing called shareholders. These are people who buy stocks. And when you buy a stock, that says you own a share in the company. So what happens when you own a share in the company? You kind of own it. It's kind of yours. You've given money to this company and they are using your money. It's kind of like a loan. It's like, yeah, it's very similar to a loan. Because what happens is that companies get so big that banks cannot lend them money. They cannot, in good faith, lend them money. So they have to put out a stock. They have to put out their IPO. They have to go public, as they say. And when this happens, they can get a lot of money from the public. They can fundraise like as much as they want. So the like, I guess the trade-off is when you do that, you are now on, you no longer can do whatever you want with your company. You have to make a profit every quarter, or your shareholders are going to be mad. And there are also, it's not just, it's not just they're going to be mad. It's also the law is on their side. So if you like lose money for quite some time, the board of, shareholders and the board of the company will kick you out because you are pissing off the shareholders, even though you own the company. I mean, you can think of like Spider-Man 1, where they kick out Norman Osborn and he's like, I started this company. Do you know how much I sacrificed? Well, they kicked him out because he fucking was losing too much money for the company. Yeah. And then he became Green Goblin and, he turned them into like skeletons. But, what I'm getting at here is that because every company needs to, they're just so heavily incentivized to make profits every quarter. You have them doing crazy shit. You have them laying off entire departments of people just so it looks like they're making a profit, when really they're just spending less money because they fired a bunch of people. And they mark that down as, hey, we're actually we're saving a lot of money. We're making money this quarter, but really they're not. They've cut off their arm and they're saying they weigh less. So you have that incentivization, and it just bleeds into every aspect of society. This is how you get microtransactions. This is how you get nickeled and dimed for every little thing. When like you go to a cashier now and you're at let's say you're at the movies and you buy a popcorn and now you have to tip the fucking person for scooping popcorn into a bag for you. I don't do that. I'm sorry. I only tip if I'm at a restaurant. I'm not tipping you if you're just like grabbing something off the shelf. Like, sorry. But that is one of the ways that companies are just like squeezing every little penny out of the average person. And they have to. They have to because of the law that says, maybe there's not an actual law, but it's like just an expectation to increase value for shareholders. Always. And this can also lead to companies lobbying. So they start paying off politicians to make laws within a company's favor that they can, I don't want to pay for like to get rid of all my sludge, my waste, my chemical byproducts. I just want to dump it into the river. So can we make that happen? Politician. And I'm not even saying Republicans. I'm saying like both of them do this, especially like corporate Democrats. They're more than willing to let horrific things slide for companies. Companies don't want to pay for like safety measures. They don't want to pay for like things that don't I guess, affect the bottom line, affect production. But then, yeah, this is how everything gets fucked up. This is how, like, you get gambling in public spaces. Like, why at the gas station is there a fucking slot machine there? Why are there 3 slot machines at my local gas station? Why are there slot machines at the airport? You know, like, this is crazy. People can gamble on their phone now. Like, it used to be unfathomable that, like, you could gamble outside of Las Vegas. But that's, I mean, it's a new $1 billion industry. It's always been a $1 billion industry. Now it's probably like a $1 trillion industry. Because it's just that big in America. We love betting. We love striking it big. We love it. It's not about winning. It's about the thrill. Okay? So, yeah, I think the root of all problems comes down to capitalist expansion, empire. This goes all the way back to, like, the Roman Empire, where we just got obsessed. I say we, like I'm Roman descendant. I mean, I might be. I don't know. But, like, we were obsessed with, like, in the West, just, like, conquering and becoming an empire and ruling over as much as we can and expanding and expanding. This is still alive in America today, especially with companies, because companies onto themselves are like little empires, and they just want to get bigger and bigger and increase shareholder value till the end of time. But you cannot do that. You can't. You can try, but eventually what goes up must come down. And I think it's going to come down very soon. And yeah, like that's what I have to say. We live in a gerontocracy. There's elite overproduction, and these two things are just destroying everything in this country. They're destroying everything. I don't even know how to close this. I feel like I just let out, like, everything that I got, like, a big thing off my chest. So if you made it to the end of these ramblings, God bless you. Thank you. I'll probably find something to talk about for my next video. This was the big one. This was kind of like I really need to talk about this. And it, like, there is not going to be much editing on this video. Because it's so long, like, I can't possibly, like, my computer cannot handle anything more than, like, a few static images for this video. But I hope that it reaches someone, and I hope that it resonates. I hope it gives someone some clarity on what's going on. And yeah, bye. Later.